Can you see my screen? Family Services Agency.
Yes.
Oui.
Oui.
Brilliant. So today we are going to look at Unit 2, and if we have time, of course, Unit 3. Unit 2 is mainly based on Family Services Agency, right? So what is meant by Family Service Agency? We are going to look at it, the definition, the characteristics, the functions of a Family Service Agency. As you will see, those who have read, you will see that this unit is quite straightforward, where you have all the explanations regarding the FSA, that is Family Service Agency. So we are going again to go through it like in a very short, precise way, so that you can understand if those who have not got the time to read the unit, right? So this unit provides a general outlook on the FSA, Family Service Agency, its functions, benefits, and challenges, right? And what is, of course, it is concerned about children. What is more important is how we are dealing with children here, right? So what is a family service agency? As it is mentioned here, a family service agency comprises of numerous activity systems. For instance, one unit is responsible for family functions, family life education, another for marital issues, and yet another one for family counseling. So in short, a family service agency is any type of organization. It can be ministry, it can be NGO, it can be a unit, a parastatal body, anything which is comprising of family and child welfare. Right? It has to, sorry, I will just start the recording because à chaque fois j'oublie. So normally, a family service agency is responsible for taking care of children and of the family as a whole, right? Okay. Yes. So like I was saying, it can be either a family institution, right, or either the Ministry of Child and Welfare, or even the small units within the ministry, or in an NGO, a parastatal body, or any kind of organization responsible for family issues, like it is mentioned here, family counseling, right? Premarital counseling, if sometimes we have, for example, we know that the church gives premarital counseling to people who are going to get married, right? So future les futurs mariés, they have the right to assist, right? What we call a pre-counseling course before marriage, right? Pre-marriage, we call it counseling. So all these issues are related to family and child welfare, and whichever institution is responsible here is being taken care of by what the name of family service agency, right? So furthermore, one unit may be devoted to family advocacy, support, and recreation. This is also relevant. Family advocacy, recreation, so support, social security, social welfare benefits, and we see that today in Mauritius we have two ministries catering for these two. One, the Ministry of Gender and Family Welfare, Child, etc., and then Ministry of Social Security as well, right? So each unit specializes itself in definite functions so as to meet the agency's goal and of providing family services. How we are related to that? Why are we looking at family service agency? It's because social workers deal and work in the family service agencies for the welfare of people, mainly here of the family and children. So according to Barker, social services, sometimes referred to as social welfare, are delivered by social workers, right? And to improve the individual health, standard of living, and self-sufficiency. They support families and assist people and larger systems to perform better. So family service agencies, as I said earlier, it can be owned by public or private agencies. It can be a public owned by the government, and it can also be a private agency like NGOs or parastatal bodies and all. So public agencies may deliver services at local, state, and federal level. Usually, there are laws governing the agency's policy, right? For example, what is the ministry allowed to do? What are the different functions, right? Characteristics? How does it perform its services and all, right? On the contrary, private social agencies, they are either profit making or not. So some NGOs, of course, we know they are voluntary, but we also have other types of family service agencies which will be paid, right? So this also exists, but it forms part of the FSA, Family Service Agencies. Right, so here family services are also known as human services and will be consisting of services aimed towards enhancing individuals' health, social and environmental conditions which impact greatly on the individuals, families, specific groups or communities. Here it is important to mention that, for example, in Mauritius, we have very large amount of social welfare centers. And under these, we also have socio-cultural centers, religious groups, which operate for the welfare and the benefit of people. And we know that also under these social-cultural organizations, very often they organize voluntary activities, fundraising activities to help families in distress. They reach out to people who are in difficulties, and these also can fall part under the FSA, Family Service Agency, because they are connected here to social work, right? And it is a form of service that they are giving to people. So they are concerned with increasing self-sufficiency and strengthening family relationships for the smooth running of the society. Social service contexts can differ largely. For example, they may include child welfare agencies, local community-based groups, right, in terms of youth programs, shelters for abused women or homeless families. You have so many examples here, right? Children who are in distress, women who are into difficulties, abused women who need shelters, homeless families, poverty-stricken families, right? Young people who are in difficulties. All these are being taken here by the FSA. So what are the functions? You will see we have a list of functions here of the family service agencies. The social workers recruited in family service agencies can have a number of job functions based on their specific roles. So what do social workers normally perform in the family service agency? Some of them are case managers, program directors, foster care social worker, and probation officer, just to name a few. So we have a list of roles here where the social workers will be involved when they're working with children and families. Right? So you can read them, recruiting qualified foster parents, managing available resources. Right? Very simple English, you can read and understand. Right? We continue. Benefits and challenges of working in FSA. What are the benefits? Normally, we are working here with the welfare of people, families, and children. So the focus of the FSA is to work towards providing safety for children, youth, and families alike. Therefore, they have a crucial role to play in sustaining the lives of individuals based on their distinct roles. They are expected to shoulder a wide range of responsibilities. They gain enriching experiences. So it's like a win-win solution. Of course, if you like the job, mainly in terms of welfare, where people like to work with children and they have the patience and all, it is rewarding because at the end of the day, you get a satisfaction that you have been able to take someone out of a problem, out of a difficulty, if not a child, even if it's a woman, if it's a whole family. So it's kind of rewarding activity where social workers engage in. And if you have job satisfaction, it is something really very important for officers, workers, or anyone who is working. So it is important and it is something which is requiring a lot of patience and also a lot of responsibility, right? Furthermore, social workers inescapably have to seek help and support from other institutions to achieve efficiency. Of course, when you're working with children and all, like we said last time, sorry, normally many ministries will be involved. Like for example, if the child is not well, He or she has to be taken to a psychiatrist, to a medical doctor, needed specific medical attention, or any kind of facility that the child may require in terms of the law, in terms of, I don't know, maybe social security. So therefore, all these ministries together, you have to work with all these ministries, which becomes challenging. But normally the networks have already been set. You just have to make the liaison with the officers and get the work done, right? So this gives them the opportunity to build professional networks, right? Social workers, they possess the expertise to make enormous contributions in interdisciplinary teams, right? So in a way, you see that they are quite and encouraging to work in the family service agency because you gain also a lot. One of the challenges is that we don't have many social workers, and therefore the few social workers that we have very often they face what we call a case overload. Right? They have too many cases to look after, and therefore they are not able to give the required output to give the maximum of themselves to each and every case. Because one case is every case we say is unique and they are very time consuming from the time you understand what is happening, then you start taking action, etc. etc. It takes really a lot of time. What is the issue here? We need to take into consideration all these, and at the end of the day, when the social worker is having so many cases, he or she will not be in a position to give the best of himself or herself. Another thing which is also very discouraging in the field is that the field of social work, especially in Mauritius, is not well regulated. So it is not professionalized in such a way that if you have a degree, you get, the salary. If you go for a master's in social work, you improve. You go from, officer to director, something like this. So if all this is well set, it is coming, right? I think in some cases we already have them, but it will take some time un petit peu plus de temps pour pouvoir vraiment professionnaliser le secteur. But if all these are regulated, people will be attracted to the position, you see, and the way we are going to do the society is today, it is very likely that we will need more and more social workers, right? So while recognizing that the number of cases vary across agencies, it is worth highlighting that some social workers have high case overload here. So case overload demands combined with scarce resources makes it challenging to offer effective services. Bien sûr, si la personne est overloaded, he or she will not be able to give the best out of himself or herself. Ouais, j'espère que c'est clair. Si jamais il y a des questions, you can just ask me. Okay? The Family Service Agency, now they are giving you some examples of family service agencies in different countries around the world. You will see that they differ slightly, but the main gist, the main role of the FSA will be the welfare of families and women and children as a whole. So in San Francisco, it was founded in 1889 with the head of Crocker and her family, right? So it was started with a small family business, family initiative, right, where they looked at the demands and needs of abused and orphan children. So what did they do? The FSA developed the Teenage Pregnancy and Parenting Program, which became the state model. It was replicated in 43 countries. Right? So what was the mission is to strengthen families by assisting them. This is the main role of an FSA, right? To strengthen families, to make them to function properly, right? It lays emphasis on the needs of the vulnerable sections of society, mainly low-income families, the elderly, children, and disabled persons. Deuxième, on a l'exemple de Californie, right? Family Service Agency in Santa Barbara. Right, encore une fois, you will see that the goal is to create and maintain a healthy community. Our society is always changing. Today, children are more exposed to violence and trauma. Furthermore, a rise in single-parent families make it important for children to have positive role models. As you can see, all these are happening not only in California, but also in Mauritius and elsewhere around the world, right? So across the board, you will see that the challenges arising on the family exist not only in our country, right? It exists around the world. So as far as the elderly is concerned, it is clear that in certain countries there has been a rise in life expectancy. This is another thing which is a challenge. We will not be able to talk in here about it here today. It's on aging population, right? Almost all countries of the world are facing aging population, and in Mauritius we are not like we are not deprived of this. On contrary, we are already an aging population where we are having a lot of problems, challenges to maintain, the proportion of working people and those who are not working independent. And it becomes difficult sometimes to sustain, surtout avec pension, etc. So this is another debate. So normally the older population seeks to preserve their independence and quality of life, right? And this really costs a lot. Then you have, this is for California. Then you have Arizona, right? As well, America too. Okay, so you can read it. The same thing will happen in terms of taking care of the family. The original vision is to provide services, advocate for strengthen, and preserve the individual and the family has been strictly abided to from the past 130 years, and he has likely to be interrupted. So repeat so that we can get over. Right? So we have seen their success stories in terms of taking care of the family and children. Encore une fois, in California, right? Maintenant, on a in India, Bangalore, right? Pareil. The Family Service Agency offers preventive, therapeutic services and promotional interventions. So they take care of adolescents, of children, family counseling center at school also, right? So the center addresses issues like poor academic performance, psychological and behavioral problems, and marital problems as well as marital issues. Right? Everything which is concerned with again the family and child. So here it is very well elaborated. The diverse activities of the agency are enumerated. Development of self-help groups, activities with panchayats and local leaders. Donc ce sont les prêtres, right? Par exemple, ou bien those who are responsible for the local community. Awareness programs, working with the tribals, okay, the tribes which still exist in these places, conducting children's, I think this is small activity, right? Skill training, support partner group building. You see, so again, it is something which is related to the child, right, and the family. Then you have in Colombia, same thing, 4 functions regarding the family. It coordinates public and private affiliations to safeguard children from abuse and neglect, ensures the continuity of families by delivering services and adoption services. So assist families, provide safe out-of-home care, re-establish permanent homes, right? The CSSA is committed to 8 core values. What are the core values? All children and youngsters have the right to feel safe. Right? It is a basic right. Families have their say in matters affecting them. They have the right to be understood, to be valued, to be encouraged and empowered. Right? Then you have community partnerships are important for ensuring that children and the youth are safe. Right? Child welfare practice and services are guided by the strong commitment to assist children, youth, and families achieve positive outcomes. Right? Children and youth deserve opportunities to develop their full potential, grow and learn, and be mentally and physically fit. They should be empowered for successful adulthood. It is a must for children and youth to have a family which is permanent, right? Especially those who are having difficulty with families, and they need to be loved unconditionally. Children, youth, and families deserve understanding and respect within the context of the history and tradition and cultures. Best practices and constant quality improvement to the child welfare system brings a positive change in the life of their clients. Right? So again, this doesn't apply to only one country or one specific institution, it applies everywhere. Now, as I say in Michigan, right, pareil, they help people to become self-reliant, right, and working towards the interest of the family. Especially among the programs are including the grandparents, foster grandparents. So they say that the grandparents occupy a major role in children's life. Their care and support may have positive impacts on children. Est-ce que c'est vrai, n'est-ce pas? So grandparents are especially vital for at-risk children who are confronted with physical and emotional changes. Of course, there will be the generation gap, but if the parents are able to find an intermediary in between and show children, and this is what is lacking today among our children and also among parents in general, where the youngsters are not really able to cater for the elderly in terms of respect, in terms of discipline. This is something which is unavailable today in our society, right? So the first grandparent here will be someone who will take care of the child, okay? Especially if the child is having some problems personally, right, etc. etc. Then in-home elder care are those who are having an elderly at home. It is a plus when you have a child, right? Senior companion answer, which is a program in which the seniors help other adults with special needs to live independently. It provides good retirement opportunities and assists the lonely, ill, or disabled. So, like I said, it is a win-win situation. For example, if the elderly are here to look after, for example, the needs of the youth, of the kids around the house, and at the same time, they are not being lonely, right? They have people to talk to, etc. So it's a win-win situation. In Mauritius, we still have some families who live with, the elderly parents, and maybe you can tell us through the activities whether they exist, whether it is on the rise, or whether you have seen personally certain improvements or changes in the child's behavior, whether they are more exposed to elderly, ou bien est-ce que ça dégrade la situation, it worsens the situation. Donc, on va le voir en termes d'activité, right? Donc, this is a bit about the Family Service Agency. On a vu les roles, functions, and also some examples around the world. Now you have an activity here which says that the Family Service Agency preserves the family as well as the individual. Discuss, right? So you can provide a list of, this is one question, right? And second, I have added here, provide a list of Family Service Agency along with their functions in Mauritius. Right? So have you understood? Those who are with me, are you able to understand? So I will give you like 10 minutes to work on these two questions and then we will discuss. Est-ce qu'on a déjà fait? Non. You have already done the questions?
Non, madame.
No.
No answer means no. Okay, so you start working on the two questions. I'll give you 10 minutes, right? Let me know through the chat box when you finish. Is that okay? Au moins, dites-moi, vous êtes là?
Oui, oui, madame.
Oui.
D'accord. So you work on the two questions then. Right? You can see the questions here on my screen. I have shared also the assignment question on the platform. You have received the question. If ever you have any question, any remarks, anything to ask, we will give you at the end of today's session. Okay. And then let me know when you finish. Right, so we look at it together. Family Service Agency preserves the family as well as the individual. Discuss. Do you agree or not? Why do you agree? If yes, can we hear from you?
I agree it helps family in difficulties.
Yes, we have family difficulties. Yes, agree. So we agree that the Family Service Agency is here to cater for the welfare of children and families. So first of all, we have seen that family. Qu'est-ce qu'on a dit, sorry?
It ensures the welfare of child for their well-being and the family as well.
Oui, welfare, Qui peut me dire dans quelle façon they help the family? You have listed, n'est-ce pas, the list of services that the family service agencies engage in.
Et madame, moi je crois bien que oui, aider dans la façon que si il a un problème entre enfants, parents, maman, papa, et je te fais une concession, fais causer, fais un counseling, cause pour faire de retour à la normale. Et c'est aider, guider à travers une causerie, peut-être guider. To begin financial help, je guide juste pour capable faire maintain cette famille.
Oui, très bien. So it's a way that the families are being given a kind of support. And the existence itself is very important because it helps people to reconnect with their families, réassurer les liens, right? Et en même temps help each other while surmounting different problems. Right? Donc, très bien. Then the second question, provide a list of family service agency along with the assumptions in Mauritius. Qui peut répondre?
Il y a le CDU, Family Protection Unit.
Il y a aussi Family Support Bureau. Il y a 6 à Maurice.
Oui. Et puis? On
a
a
le SOS Children.
SOS Children, oui.
Il y a les Home Recreational Centers pour les elderly.
On a aussi un Family Planning Association.
Oui, MFPA. Donc, tout ce qui est NGOs, ministère, même le ministère de Sécurité sociale aussi, right, even the CDU, right, all the different parastatal bodies which is run under the aegis of the Ministry of Gender and Child Welfare, all these form part of family service agencies. Now we have the NGOs like SOS Village, right, je crois il y a aussi TADP, etc. So all these also they cater for children and women who are in distress. Along with this, we also have, like I have mentioned, sociocultural centers, religious groups, which work for the benefit the welfare of families, right? Community, in community neighborhood force beef, who sometimes are working for the interest of families, supporting families who are in distress, who are having difficulties, parental issues, abuse, drug abuse.
Madam, can we put a special needs school in this list?
Yes. special needs school.
So-
Children with special needs, also children, and we have to look at them very well because they have a specific needs and they're different from others. So we need to give them full attention, give them a lot of facilities for the inclusion in the society so that they do not feel stigmatized, they do not feel delisted, excluded.
Est-ce qu'on peut inclure le child tribunal dedans, children's court?
Oui, ça aussi, parce que là, on parle de legal framework, la loi. Il y avait ça au début, on a discuté, ça aussi. Le Children's Act, etc. Tous les secteurs qui ont travaillé aussi dans le cadre légal, ouais, pour l'enfant et la famille.
Madame, est-ce qu'on peut inclure ce sont des personnels, par exemple, le corps des psychologues qui travaillent beaucoup pour les familles, les enfants et les individus?
Oui. Oui, très bien. Oui, mais là, on parle de agency, c'est plutôt institution, c'est plutôt groupe de personnes. Mais peut-être individuel aussi, oui, parce que, comme on a dit, when we talk about children issues, we don't talk only about one specific thing. We will need the medical doctor, the psychologist, psychiatrist, the counselor, everyone will be involved to take care of the child. Donc, oui, pourquoi pas? Ok, c'est clair? Alright, so on passe au unit 3 then, if you don't have any further questions. Okay, unit 3, case with regards to children. So unit 3 considers the role of documentation and reporting in family and child welfare services. We will talk about purposes of record keeping. We will know what is record keeping, principles about the way both paper and automated records are maintained, how do we keep them, the records, the content that should be documented on each process. Right? What is the objective? We are going to familiarize you with the need of documentation reporting, the importance of doing all these things, the purpose of recording, the principles of recording, and the content of case records. Right? So this is basically the unit. What is effective documentation? The word itself says to effective, proper, right? Quality. Okay. Documentation means you take notes, you place the information in files so that you can consult later on. Right? So case documentation here means whenever you are involved in the case, you need to document it very well. There are certain steps. You will be given training as a social worker how to document your case. Since the first meeting with a client, là je veux dire l'enfant, la famille, ou peu importe avec qui you are dealing. So since the very first meeting, you need to start documenting the case. And of course, there is a training that is given to you. So case documentation helps social workers to track their activities. Parce que demain, après-demain, on a tellement de choses, on va oublier. Right? Après un mois, 2 mois, then the information, if you have documented it, it will be there. To keep track of the activities as well as the services provided to the client. Effective documentation ensures that services are delivered in the best possible way. It provides further accountability for the outcomes of the work performed by the agency. Record keeping not only protect children and families, but also protect the caseworker. It is a protection for both, in fact, because the person may tell you, the client can tell you that, no, I have never met this person. Right? If you document it thoroughly, then there is proof that you have met, and maybe you can also ask the person to sign. So it is an acknowledgement qu'il n'y aura pas de fraude. Right? You're also protecting your client because tomorrow you can discuss among yourselves what we discussed last time. It is like a clear record. It is a protection not only for the client, but for you as well. On pourra pas passer au blâme, etc. So record keeping, what does it contain? demographic information of the client, où la personne habite, name, place, residence, location, right? Sex, race, and date of birth, amongst others. Educational information, medical or psychological reports, and court documents, among others. So these are the basic information that one needs to know when we are documenting a case. Right? So only information which are deemed relevant should be recorded. In general, it would be all discussions and interactions with the client. Right? On va pas mettre tout dans les documents. Only specific information which is important for recording, right? For the case record. Right? So information travel fair case records and information systems should precisely document contact information. The data gathered from the assessments, decisions taken as the case progresses, indirect or direct interventions provided to the family, how far the goal is being achieved, including risk reduction, the results of the intervention, and the nature of partnerships with community agencies. So you see all the details have to be included here. The case will have like a plan, okay, since the first meeting, second meeting, in 5 or 6 meetings, normally a case has to be over. Right, so organize it well, plan it well so that it doesn't take too much time as well. People will get lost within the case itself. So it has to be of a reasonable time frame, and also the goals should be clearly spelled out. Even if it's a simple goal, right? It has to be clearly spelled out so that people know what you are doing, right? Sometimes social workers, they place very big goals, very, ambitious goals, where it is difficult to achieve in a short span of time. So it has to be something deliberate, but that will help the child and the family. Okay? So we continue. When to consult supervisors and caseworkers. Now you are a social worker. You will be assigned a supervisor to check whatever you are doing. The supervisor will be meeting you after each meeting with the client, after each quarterly, to check on the progress. Now, certain decisions demand imperatively that caseworkers consult their supervisors. Caseworkers do not have the full liberty, freedom to take care of le bon fonctionnement, right? Because sometimes the supervisor, the manager, the course coordinator the case coordinator has to check what is happening, and also some decisions are taken at their level, right? So when there has been a report of child abuse or neglect, the caseworker needs to know the immediacy of the situation. He should decide when to initiate contact. In practice, the laws already dictate the time frame for beginning the investigation. Still, the caseworker should reach a decision together with the supervisor. Suppose it is a Sunday afternoon and the child has to be imperatively removed from the parent's custody. What do? Okay, there must be cases like this, or in the afternoon, even during weekdays. Portrait fermé, right, where to replace the child. The child has to be removed. His or her life is in danger. What do? Okay, then you have to contact, because you can't take all decisions by yourself as a caseworker, right? Then, during the initial assessment, the caseworker should decide whether the child is safe at home. The decision should then be considered by the supervisor, who may approve or modify it. Troisième, when decisions made at the initial assessment are confirmed and risk assessment completed, Both the caseworker and the supervisor shall determine if the child will be safe with or without the continued interventions of the family and child welfare. So when do we stop the intervention? When do we reach a point where we say that now we can stop with the interventions and things can go normally? Right? Quatrième, if it is found that the life of the child is endangered and there is a risk of him being abused, the caseworker along with the supervisor must decide on the best intervention. Right? On the best intervention that can be taken. So the intervention agreed upon should be intrusive, at least as intrusive as possible. Okay? Then you have, in case of the child has been relegated to out-of-home care, the reunification recommendation must be made in consultation with the supervisor. Right? When the child has been placed out of home care, the recommendations to move towards a permanent goal rather than reunification must be again made after consultation with the supervisor. And finally, coming at the stage where the case will be closed, the caseworker and the supervisor must assess the risk reduction and the client's progress towards assuming his responsibility with his or her work. Donc, vous voyez qu'il y a des décisions that we cannot take alone as a caseworker. Right? We need to take into consideration the decision of others as well. And of course, it is a protection for the caseworker. Because these are very sensitive issues, right? Now, need of record keeping. If there is a real willingness to curb the number of abused children and protect them, record keeping becomes crucial. It is primordial for the staff working as children and FSA to keep records of all reported cases. Like over the year, all contacts, consultations, the time at which actions have been taken, everything has to be well noted. Records should be up to date. In the case of child welfare, it is fundamental for two main reasons. Firstly, right at the beginning, it aids school to identify causes for concern. Donc, si l'enfant a déjà fait un rapport au ministère, ou bien dans les compagnies, dans les NGOs, it will be easier for the school to take care of these. It becomes like a facilitator. Deuxième, schools become in a better position to monitor and manage safeguarding practices. Okay. Then the following points have to be met again. Case notes should be concise and factual. Right? De ne pas parler de grande littérature, par exemple. Pas lieu d'écrire de grands paragraphes. Just be concise to the point. What has happened? Just a record. You see? Everything that is recorded should be supported by facts and observations. It should reflect the real situation. On ne va pas raconter what has happened before or after, or bien try to exaggerate the situation. No. How it is, it should be written. Well, of course, you are getting trained for that. Records should be explicitly and clearly written. It should provide elaborate details of any decisions taken. The reasons behind taking said decisions should be also explained. The social worker and the supervising team leader must sign the case notes after each supervision session. Records should be coherent and intelligible. Right? Il faut avoir un flow. Right? And anyone should read and understand what is happening. Right? Bien lisiblement. If it is typed, it has to be in a good order, well typed, well formatted. As far as possible, it is advisable that the case notes are taken concomitantly or on the same day the actions have been taken place to ensure accuracy. Parce que peut-être il peut arriver que le lendemain, on a tellement de choses à faire, on peut oublier. Après 2 jours, 3 jours, we forget. So if possible, on the same day, we take the notes. The record should be available at all times, even when the key worker is absent. Right? The most important thing about the record is that On n'est pas indispensable, vous êtes. Right? Tomorrow we will be working in one division, one unit, and then the next day we are transferred to another. Right? So who will take up the matter to be followed has to have an idea what is happening. Right? That's why it is important, the documentation. We need to keep it there so that others, when they come, they can read it and continue the case. Okay? Then documenting the situation. How do we document it? Case workers gather information, but are not carrying out investigations. We are only gathering information. Right? Only facts should be recorded, leaving aside all unnecessary details. So what are the facts? We are trying here to achieve objectivity. Like facts. Case workers should not bring their own feelings and interpretations to incidents. Très souvent, la personne va vous dire, il y a un tel problème, the case worker can automatically, tout de suite, lui dire, c'est pourquoi il y a un problème là. No, this should not be done. Right? Subjectivity should not be there. You should not bring your problems, your feelings, whatever you experience in your life with the client. It has to be objective. It has to be independent. So information that need documentation are the full name, age, gender, address of the child, and caregivers, your relationship to the child, whether immediate actions need to be taken for the safety of the child, the type of abuse and observations made, for instance, based on the appearance of the child and other signs of neglect or abuse, the date and time of the disclosure. It may also include direct goods, background information on family members. For example, how many are they, their age, their names and all, the visits and telephone calls from the parents and guardians. Now, what is the purpose of child protective services and record keeping? First of all, you see here, guide the family and child welfare process. Case records, they provide an updated picture of the situation. And through them, the nature of the child protective services can be discerned, the level of progress can be measured, and they also shed light on the decisions which lead to case closure. It has to be something relevant and up to date. Okay, all the cases have to reflect the reality, what has happened, and anyone can consult it for clarity. Okay. Deuxième, provide accountability for the agency and the case worker. Right? On va dire, vous n'avez pas travaillé parce que vous avez fait, so here it is a proof of your work. Troisième, serve as a therapeutic tool for the case worker and the family. Right? It shows the expectations and all. Quatrième, case records elaborate on the goals and outcomes. Et cinquième, organize the case workers thinking about work. What do they think about work? And for example, here it becomes easier for the case worker to make in-depth evaluation and treatment planning. Because when you are organizing the facts, they have to be clear enough so that afterwards investigation can be done and can be done in a proper way. Okay? So besides the 5 primary purposes of record keeping, the case record is useful for supervisory review, statistical reporting and research, and interdisciplinary communication. The content of case records provide in-depth factual information about the activities of the agency along with the case assessment of progress made. It helps case workers in knowing whether interventions have taken place, or have achieved the purpose or not in terms of the safety of the child, permanence and feeling of well-being. Right? Là, vous avez the family record, maybe automated or on paper, or should be inclusive of. Donc, toutes ces informations. Date on the nature and intensity of the retrieval report. The date should be clearly stipulated. Records regarding the family's awareness of the agency policy data about the initial assessment, right? And all these will be like a legal document, can be referred to, can be taken into consideration, right? It is complete, as you can see. Data initial assessment, information about procedures, and the safety plan, record of risk, the risk assessment, explanation on any criminal activities on client, everything is contained here. Right? And finally, a case closing summary involves, because when you close the case, again you have to put something like it's closed and why, what are the goals achieved and all. So the reason or original reason for referral, right? Program and investigate of the case now. Process of closure with the family. The goals formulated along with the family. Types of services provided. Activities carried out by different practitioners in the family. The extent to which case workers and families have achieved established goals and outcomes. Any new reports on maltreatment. Evaluation of existing risk and safety. Unresolved and unaccomplished issues and objectives and reasons for case closure. Okay, so as you can see, it's just complete. Principles of record keeping method. Right, what are the different rules, regulations when we talk about record keeping? So we need to avoid futile abbreviations. Parce que personne ne va comprendre à quoi que nous. Okay, you can abbreviate, but of course it has to be clear. Right? Then you have recording information should be done in such a way that it is easier to retrieve them back. When records are no longer required, the agency should ensure that they are disposed properly. Right? Confidentiality has to remain confidential. If you come with Maurice, we are a very small country. We may know each other very well, right? And it can happen that we are looking at our close friends' face or some of our acquaintances. So we have to be careful not to divulge important information to others. Records should be kept professional and purposeful. We should clearly draw the line between facts and opinions. If opinions are recorded, the basis of it should be justified and well stipulated. Caseworkers should avoid prejudice. Care should be taken while writing, especially when it comes to sensitive issues such as race, culture, religion, disability, or sexual orientation. Accuracy and adequacy of information is important. Avoid recording details of a client's intimate life and personal opinions unless they are important for the family and child care considered. The most has to be taken from their direct consultation with the client. Of course, right, it goes on, right, the quality record keeping is an intrinsic part of professional and family and child care practice. Right, it has every record keeping, even though it is done, it has to be of a good quality. Ça ne sert pas l'utilité otherwise. Record keeping should not really be a document by family and child care process, but it also determines the caseworker's thinking and make it easy to follow the progress that is being made. So if you are following your case properly, right, if you are going to document it well, it provides a good reputation for the caseworker as well. Okay, and you can be referred for other cases afterwards. Maintenant, si vous ne faites pas le travail convenablement, right, people will talk about it, of course, and it will cause harm to your reputation as a social worker, okay, especially in the field of family. It is important that through the training that you get, it is important that you do a good job, not only when you have a good rapport with the client, a good relationship with the client, but also make sure that you are working systematically with regards to record keeping as well. Right? So this is the unit 3, which is about record keeping and the documentation. So here we have the exercise. Discuss the role of documentation and reporting in family and child welfare services. right? So, Sahaya, je vous donne 10 minutes, right? You work on it, and then we will discuss. Okay? Vous êtes toujours avec moi là? So let me know when you finish, right?
Yes, yes, madam.
Yes. So discuss the role of documentation and reporting in family and child welfare services.
We need to report the suspected incident of in example in child abuse.
You need to report every case that you are involved in. Like you need to document the case since the first meeting with the client. Let's go. Okay, Ali, carry on.
Full information of the client is kept, and also his or her next to kin and family. The problem of the client is facing is clearly recorded. The objectives is clearly settled, and the action plan. Note the progress of the situation accurately.
Yes.
The report is confidential and is an official document. In case the social worker have many cases, this will help him or her not to be confused or to mix cases.
Yes.
In case if the case worker is transferred or for any reason stop the follow-up, the case and any other social worker will easily continue the work and the follow-up.
Yes.
The document is closed when the objective is attained.
But the document is closed. Sometimes there is a follow-up after the document is closed. After the case is closed, sometimes we look into the unit and there is a follow-up. We don't just close the case as it is. Because sometimes, the child goes back to the house where he or she was abused, and we return back to square one again, as we practice start again, and also there has to be a follow-up 6 months, and then it becomes 1 year, and then becomes 2 years. So this will be there. Right. Otherwise, yes, very good.
It can be sent to the Child Protective Services also.
Yes. For example,
to some departments such as the CDU, as you just mentioned lastly.
Yes, good. It's important that we document all these so that there is a follow-up, there is also a referral. If no one can say that the social worker hasn't done the job correctly, and also on the other hand, when the social worker gets transferred from one unit to another, the other one who will come and take over the case will have a clear perception, aperçu de ce qui se passait, right? Since the beginning. And also it is important that to show that the caseworker is not investigating, but is carrying out a informational task, right? He or she is gathering information, taking the information to the supervisor for decisions to be taken at another level, right? Sometimes the supervisor and the caseworker will take decisions together, right? But other decisions which are more important will have to be referred to the case coordinator. It depends on a case-to-case basis, on the severity of the case as well. And also the caseworker has to be very proactive. They have to take decisions. They have to be careful when taking decisions as well, because everything that may happen, remember, it is a very delicate issue. When we are dealing with children, we are dealing with families. So any type of mishap or any type of wrong decision may very well, impede on the development of the case, but at the same time can affect the child development, physical, psychological, mental development. And if the family, may get angry, and this will uh, uh, have a negative influence on the family service agency, whether it is the ministry or the NGOs or anyone who is involved in the case. You get the point?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
it? Yeah, is it? So you have understood the importance, right, of record keeping, documentation, reporting, knowing the role of the caseworker, the supervisor, right? So all these will be important, right, regarding the social worker's role, the type of work he or she will be involved when dealing with families, right? Okay, any question on the 3 units that we have covered today, unit 2 and unit 3?
Non, c'est bon.
Alright, très bien. Maintenant, regarding the assignment, you have any question? I have already uploaded the question. So for the assignment, it is only an assignment, okay? You don't need to carry out any survey here. You will not need sensitive information. I think some of you have asked your program manager to have, a talk or give a testimonial so that you can carry out investigation at the CDU. This is not needed for the assignment. Maybe for the dissertation afterwards, you can do it. But for the assignment, the information that you have, you can do a bit of research, but then it should be fine. Okay, don't worry about carrying out surveys, etc. for the assignment. And the word, you also have to respect the word limit. It's not too much, so don't worry about it. C'est clair pour vous? Il y a des questions regarding the assignment? Don't forget that you need to work on the assignment in essay type form, right? Essay type format, the introduction, the body of arguments, and the conclusion. And don't forget the references in the Harvard system of referencing. Dès maintenant même, habituez-vous à faire le Harvard system of referencing, because this is going to help you for the dissertation. Right? So you work the assignment well, you may have information on the internet and also on the different links that you have, right? If you need any clarification, I am here. No question? C'est clair pour l'assignment ici? No problem?
Non, pas vraiment.
Deadline to everything is okay. So you have to submit on Blackboard itself. Right?
Madame.
And oui.
Dans le assignment, on a dit with the concerned authorities. We can mention multiple authorities.
Dans l'assignment question, vous me dites là?
Yes.
Oui. You can mention the authorities, oui. Par exemple, le ministère et les NGOs, oui.
Okay.
you can mention, but don't really go and carry out a survey of health. Si vous voulez, mais pas vraiment. Like you need to have a survey and because this is normally for dissertation that you get a testimonial and then you carry out surveys at you get information from the ministry, from the diplomat unit. Pour la dissertation, pour ça mettre un petit peu plus easy, enfin pas easy, mais comme si plus pratique, you can do it like taking information, reports, what is available on the internet, ou bien dans les bibliothèques, dans les librairies, etc. Okay, so for submission, you submit on the board itself, and also you will submit through SafeAssign. You have 3 attempts, right? And the third attempt is considered as a final one. So you write in your own words, and also don't forget the Harvard system of referencing. Whatever you are quoting, you put inverted commas. The links, everything has to be, the authors that you acknowledge have to be in brackets, right? Don't forget about all this. And whatever you talk about, like for example, every point that you give, you support an example. So you were saying that, for example, in Mauritius, there is a lot of, divorce cases and children directly affected. You can mention one example, right? For example, it has been seen through the statistics, etc., divorces are the rise on the rise, and maybe children are affected and things like this. Okay, just one example to show you. So the more you give examples, you are showing the examiner that you have understood the question, and you can answer, you can apply the knowledge that you have learned in your answer, and this will give you marks, more marks. So these are some of the techniques that normally we need to adopt when we write essays, academic essays at this level. So year 1, c'est okay, mais arrivé à year 3, then you need to apply this critical knowledge, because especially when you are doing your dissertation, this is going to help you a lot. Okay with that? Good?
Yes, madam. Sorry.
Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, we can close today's class.
Yes.
Thank you. Merci, au revoir.
Au revoir, madame.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, madame.
Au revoir.